Well, a very warm welcome to a very special edition of Ultimate Pool Extra. We are on location in Blackpool for this weekend as a Judgement Weekend with the Ultimate Pool Pro Series, Challenger Series and Women's Series. I'm joined by Scott Ryan, as I always am. And Scott, it's great to actually do the show in person.
Yeah, it feels really weird. This is the first time I've seen you in person since Daventry.
Daventry, yeah, like 2 weeks.
You know, yeah, it feels like so long ago. It's absolutely freezing outside, but I think the temperatures are going to soar inside the arena over the course of the weekend.
We absolutely, yeah, I agree with you. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to Judgement Weekend, a lot of storylines, a lot of pool to talk about. But before we talk about Judgement Weekend, we have to talk about what we've seen this week so far, because of course the Pairs Cup, the Masters has continued. And this week in the Pairs Cup, we saw Gareth Potts and Mark Selby come on through. The first pair to come through the second stage without having to go via the 6-red shootout. And I thought they were fantastic, especially Mark Selby. He hasn't played for a while. He was absolutely brilliant.
Well, he's a class act. He's got pure pedigree running through his veins. What do people expect to see? You know, when he became the 2006 WEPF World Champion, he played absolute class. This man's got immense pedigree in Q Sports. What do we expect?
Yeah, and his break was absolutely huge as well. It was amazing to see him play at the level he did. I know that for every reason you just said, that we kind of expect him to, but it's not that easy. And he went out there and he did it, and both of them played fantastic. But the key match felt like it was going to be match 4, as it always was. 3-0 up, got pegged back to 3-3, ended up in a draw with Neil Raeburn and Andy Blurton, but they didn't let that affect them. They went on, won the next match, put a question to Neil and Andy, and they came up short against 𝐏𝐥𝐭𝐢𝐦𝐚 and Jamie Burnett at the end.
Yeah, they did. You can't argue with the winners overall for the evening, but if you look at that evening as a whole, there's no pair in that whole group that you can't say didn't play their part in the evening, in making it you know, one of the most exciting and entertaining evenings, and shows you don't need to have a 6-red shootout to have an exciting evening of pool.
Yeah, I agree with that. The standard though across you just mentioned it, across all 4 pairs was brilliant. We had a run in the middle there where it felt like 4 matches, 4 matches on the trot. Every frame was a clearance off a break or a counter clearance. Yeah. There was 1 or 2 mistakes. The only frame that wasn't in the middle there was the deciding frame in that key match 4, because they ran out of time. It absolutely incredible. First chance was pretty much key all night long.
And the challenge to the rest of the teams left in the pairs is follow that.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge for everybody. You know, you would have thought that Mark and Gareth had played together for 30 years, let alone, you know, 12 months.
So they go through to finals night. We already know 3 of our 4 finalists now. With it being Gaz and Mark, do we look at them now and think, okay, we don't know who the 4th pair is going to be yet. We're going to talk about that group in a minute. Are they the kind of bookies' favourites so far, do you think?
How can you say that they're not the bookies' favourites?
You've got the defending champions in there.
The one key thing is, Mark and Gareth weren't beat last year.
Yeah,
that's a huge thing. They've not tasted defeat in this format. It doesn't matter what style of pool they're up against, they still look a formidable pairing. They can do it in a 6-red shootout. They can blow you away with breaks and finishes. They can make fantastic counter clearances. So they are bookies' favourites for me, and they're going to be a very tough nut to crack in that group.
They are indeed, and of course we've got one more week of the sort of second stage of the competition to go before finals week, which is the 19th, the Monday before Christmas. We're going to have a look at that group in a second, but first of all we need to update the scores from our picking battle. We're in Blackpool. How real does it feel now that we're in Blackpool? We can, well, it's dark outside, but the ocean's just over there.
I would have to pick the weekend where it's -3 outside and the sea temperature's -10.
It was always going to be December, you know that. Though,
I'm just saying, I mean, like literally we've got an Arctic blast coming in, and this is the weekend where it looks like I'm going to have to take the dip in the ocean, unless I can make a miraculous recovery over the course of this weekend, and you've agreed to do something special if I do manage to do this.
Well, let's not talk about that.
Let's talk about this, Simon.
Well, we'll worry about that in a minute, because we've got 2 more scores to update, and then we'll talk about that.
Our director can vouch for this in the background. Simon has agreed, if he loses the picking battle, to run naked into...
I very much regret this now that you're talking about it on camera.
Into the ocean.
Nobody wants to see that. Anyway, I am 28-24 up. We're going to update the scores of the Masters in a minute when we talk about the Masters as well. But 4 clear as we stand. Let's take a look at next week's group. Arfan Dad and 𝐏𝐥𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿𝐴𝐿. And then we've got Darren Appleton and King Pigeon, Chris Patient. And then hashtag John Lewis, John Rowe and Lewis Roberts. And then father and son, Vivek and Vic Mack. Another very tasty group indeed. no need for us to have picks because our picking battle ends here this weekend, but we can at least talk about what we think might happen.
Yeah, it's a group of very interesting parallels. I really liked the father-son pairing of the Mac pairing. You know, they're absolutely incredible, played some superb pool. Chris Patient is one of my favourite players to watch in the history of Ultimate Pool because you never know what shot he's going to play, you never know what expression is going to be on his face, and he's playing with his good friend, a true legend of the game in Darren Appleton. Listen, let's be brutally honest, 𝐏𝐥𝐭𝐢𝐦𝐚 carried Darren last time out.
You called him, when he came here and commentated for us at the last Pro Series in Blackpool, you called him a pub player.
I didn't call him a pub player.
He's an absolute legend of the game and you called him a pub player.
I played a frame of pool with him and he played like a pub player. He'd tell you that himself. Darren, I hope you're not watching this right now. But
I hope you are.
He didn't watch it in that, you know, I watched him play. He didn't play his best, but what was great, he did show glimpses of brilliance. Now, I know this for an absolute fact. The Ultimate Pool marketing team are absolutely buzzing to see Team John Lewis out there again after their exploits. You know, probably the highest sales of Ultimate Pool cups in the history of Ultimate Pool was as a result of that good-looking period. Not only playing fantastic pool, but also showing off the goods on the table.
They're great. I've got so much time for #John Lewis. Also, I've got a lot of time for the fact that Stephen Jameson, one of our presenters, he's very much trying to get the nickname Dracula going for Lewis Roberts. He is getting younger by the year, hence the sort of nickname there, and I'm fully on board with the nickname Dracula. So let's get that into play as well.
And let's not forget the formidable partnership of Arfan Dad and 𝐏𝐥𝐿. If you want to talk about brutalising your opponents on the table, that's what Waddingham and Arfan Dad did when they qualified.
You have to call them favourites for the group. For me, they didn't lose in last year's competition. They were knocked out when they'd won 4 of their 6 matches and 2 draws. So they were knocked out because of the draws, not necessarily losing. So they are unbeaten as a partnership in this format, the game. And it's going to take something special, I think, to beat them. And I think they're going to Monday night as favourites.
It's going to be absolute fine margins all around. But, you know, we can make a case for all 4.
Yeah, we can,
Actually, I feel quite relieved we don't have to pick this week.
Yeah, we don't have to pick, which I'm relieved at, because there has been a lot of pressure as well, especially because the players come up to you and go, oh, you didn't pick me, or you did pick me. And I'm like, well, I've no favourites here. It's just I've got to pick somebody. So that is the group that we have coming up on Monday. So make sure you tune in on Monday. Plenty of action to come this weekend, though, before we get back to the pairs. Okay, let's update the Masters then, which we saw on Wednesday, saw yesterday, and Carl O'Donoghue making his Ultimate Pool debut, and what a debut it was. Phil Harrison, an absolute legend of the game, he took him apart, let's be honest. He gave Phil very little to go at. Phil didn't really do a lot wrong, and he was dispatched 8-2, and then he won his second match 8-3 over Tom Church. Brilliant performance.
I haven't had much going for me in terms of picks over the last few weeks, but I was absolutely delighted to see you pick Phil Harrison in the last group, and that's no disrespect to Phil Harrison, who, as you've rightly said, is a legend of the game. In Carl O'Donoghue, for a lot of people who aren't familiar with him, he's an absolutely incredible talent, and he's been chomping at the bit to get to the Ultimate Pool stage.
You could sense that.
And now he's here. I told you he would deliver that performance, and boy, did he deliver that performance. It's one of the best performances I've seen on Ultimate Pool.
Yeah, I asked the question before he played, would the extra pressure of being announced, coming with a reputation, trying to announce yourself on the Ultimate Pool stage 4 or 5 weeks, probably 5-6 weeks before he gets to make his Pro Series debut, how would that affect him? And it didn't at all, because he was just, in the match against Phil in particular, absolutely relentless. It was just finish. It was really high class. He had 6 off the break in that match alone, and another one after a tactical battle, which was essentially a full clearance as well. But the level of pool he played was electric. And yeah, he tailed off a little bit against Tom Church at the start, but once he got his nose in front against Tom as well, he gave him very little to go at.
And fair play to Tom Church. Tom Church didn't go away early doors, you know, despite the fact he knew he was up against it. But listen, Carl is an absolute class act, and that is a person next year who is going to be a very, very dangerous opponent for anybody on the Ultimate Pool circuit.
But it's fair to say he's one of the wild cards we've seen recently that's come in, and I think he's going to go next year. He's a danger to win tournaments. He's not a wild card that's coming in to sort of make up numbers or whatever else. He is definitely a
100%.
danger. He is there to win trophies and to do some damage, and it could well be in the Masters as well because he goes through to the second stage. Another thing I want to talk about with the Masters this week as well, we saw Tom Church and Ricky Jones. It was a sort of match you expect from two guys trying to make their way. They don't have a huge amount of experience in the arena. Some good moments, but some bad moments as well. Ended up 5-5 and then a 6-red shootout. But Tom Church, first experience of the 6-red shootout in competition, was as good as we have seen it. It was brilliant. That was really class.
He was unbelievable. And again, you know, I can't overstate this enough. These guys make a mockery of what it's actually like to do a 6-red shootout. So, you know, quite often, you know, people will sit at home and think, I could probably do 25 seconds. Go out and try and do it. It is virtually impossible. And fair play to Tom. And commiserations to Ricky as well. We know that Ricky's a far better player than probably he showed in patches.
And credit to him for just hanging in as well, sticking in, because there was a point you could definitely sense it that he could have just crumbled and gone, because he just didn't turn up to start with, and he could have disappeared. And credit to him for hanging in, and getting himself into that 6-red shootout actually. And okay, you know, credit to Tom on the shootout rather than anything that Ricky did wrong, really.
100%.
But good experience for them both, and they'll both be back and be stronger for it, which is great.
And I finally grabbed a point.
Yeah, well, let's update the scores. So I was 4 clear. You get the point for Wednesday night, so you are back 28-25. That puts you 3 behind, 5 points to play for this weekend. But as we know, the weekend events are so much harder to get them right.
Let's be honest, if we talk about the picking battle, I've had the majority of my success in the weekend events.
You've had more success in the weekend events than I have, for sure, because you keep picking the favourites.
No, whoa. You picked the favourite on Wednesday night. The overwhelming bookie's favourite, and what happened?
Well, you know,
thank you.
These things happen. These things happen. Just to update you before we start talking about other things on the Masters next week, it does continue. We have another group coming up, and this one, how about this for a group? Dylan Leary, Amy Beecham, Adam Toms versus Callum Singleton. Dylan Leary and Callum Singleton, they have to win their matches, of course, but they are doubles partners from the World Championships in Ireland. They made it through to the final. Of course, with the old Callum with the watch as well, my favourite moment of the year, bar none. I'm not discounting Amy Beecham at all, by the way. I think she's got a very real chance, because I really respect Amy in her game. Huge break. I think she'll go really well on that table in that arena. Expect big things. So I'm expecting fireworks from the night, actually. I really like the group. And Adam Toms, he's had experience out there in the pairs. He's going to be the underdog of the group, but you know, he can go out there and free roll, I guess.
And that's kind of the difficulty out there. Is you would expect on paper for Dylan and for Callum to go through quite comfortably, but the reality is that makes your opponent, in my opinion, far more dangerous, because they've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Now, if we are going to be honest, as a fan, as somebody who loves the game, you want to see 2 doubles partners go at it.
Oh, yeah.
You want to see, you know, and they gelled so well as doubles partners, and you could see what it meant to them when they played in the team shootout. There was obviously a very close pairing. Who doesn't want to see that? But having said that, you know, you wouldn't be surprised if there was an upset.
Yeah, and of course, this weekend might actually affect what happens next week as well. Callum's obviously going for the #1 in the challenges. Dylan's got the very real challenge of being in the top 28. He is the key man. We're going to talk about that in a minute. In the pro rankings, top 28 is everything. Amy's going for the #1 ranking in the women's series as well. So there's a lot to play for this weekend. And maybe they'll worry about next week. But what happens this weekend? They might be riding high, or they might be down. Who knows? We'll see what happens with that. So that is the Masters. Tune in on Wednesday at 6:30 on the Ultimate Pool app and Ultimate Pool TV for the Masters, as it will continue. Before we talk about Judgement Weekend, though, one last thing I want to talk about before we do. Another wildcard's been announced. Joe O'Connor, the snooker star. He's just made the final up in Scotland.
Let me stop
Incredible.
you there. You've just said snooker star. That guy was a WEPF World Junior Champion.
Yeah.
He has all the pool pedigree necessary. He has everything, every attribute required to become a top professional on the Ultimate Pool circuit. And he's a man banging form as well.
Yeah, well, banging form is the best result he's had on the snooker scene. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I actually went onto socials after he was announced yesterday on the show, and all the comments were, this guy is unreal, this guy's unreal. At pool, they're talking about, not snooker, they're talking about pool. This guy's got real pedigree, as you say, highlighted by the fact he's a junior world champion. But that doesn't tell the full story. There's a whole range of junior tournaments he won, and obviously stepped away from the game because he wanted to concentrate on snooker, quite rightly.
And let's be honest, you know, there are very good pool players that we have lost to pool. if it wasn't for this Ultimate Pool stage, we'd never see them again.
Possibly, yeah.
They'd be
You're
lost.
absolutely right.
They'd be lost to snooker forever.
Yeah.
Ultimate Pool are giving these guys the stage because Joe O'Connor loves the game of pool.
Yeah.
He wanted this stage to play on. Now he has this stage to play on. I'm expecting big things from Joe next year.
Do you think there's more big things from him than some of the other snooker players? Because
100%.
we've got a mix of snooker players. We've got the likes of your Mark Williams and your Mark Allens. Well, Mark Williams in particular hasn't played a huge amount of pool. Mark Allen's played some. Mark Williams hasn't. Then you've got your Ryan Days. You've got Stephen Maguire's hardly played any. You know, Tom Ford, who has played plenty. But Joe, we know he's got real pedigree in this sport.
He's got real pedigree in the sport. Now, let's be brutally honest about this. Snooker players have got the fundamentals to compete at any level of pool. Make no mistake about that. The big advantage that the Joe O'Connors, the Tom Fords of this world are going to have over the other snooker players is they understand how the game works, the mechanics of the game, and they also understand better how the patterns work in terms of clearing up. That's where it's good. It may catch out a Stephen Maguire, it may catch out a Mark Williams, but it's not going to catch Tom Ford and Joe O'Connor out as much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the puzzle, it's the patterns, it's the game that we're looking forward to. We know they're going to have all the technical attributes to actually play it to a high level, but it's going to be fascinating to watch out. The other thing is we were told yesterday there's still, I think, 16, 17 wild cards left to announce. Of course, we're going to know what happens with the Challenger Series this weekend. Also told, I think, all of the wild cards left to announce are all pool players as well, because there's a lot of people saying we need to see more pool players. We've seen some big names, Carl O'Donoghue, obviously, John McAllister, to name only a couple. But over what's coming up over the next week, I'm told, is going to really set the world alight. So I'm excited.
I have been told that one of the wild cards is going to blow everybody's mind, and that's as much as I've been told.
Is it you?
No, it's you, Simon.
It's me. Okay.
It's you. All the pros have clubbed in to make you. Because obviously you slate them in the comms box, what they're going to do is they want to see you go out and do it.
What is good, it wouldn't affect my commentary because I can turn up, lose first round and then go and do my job. So it wouldn't actually affect anything. So I could if I wanted
Fair
to.
play.
But there you go. Okay, enough about that. Enough about me. Let's talk
enough about you. It's never enough about you.
Yeah. Let's talk about what we're doing here in Blackpool this weekend as we are in Blackpool at the Grand Hotel. On the seafront, just going to remind you out there's the ocean. I can just see it
chilly.
through the window and
It's chilly.
We are here for the final weekend.
Snow forecast this evening?
I hope so. The final weekend of the Ultimate Pool Pro Series, the Challenger Series and the Women's Series. A ton of storylines for us to talk about and work out. I guess we're going to have to start at the very, very top. Let's start with Mick Hill. He has won every single Pro Series weekend this year, 3 titles on the season. Shane Thompson won 3 last year in a slightly different way. One weekend he won 2. To win at every single Pro Series weekend would be an unbelievable achievement.
Yeah, but listen, I mean, I guess if you speak to Mick Hill, a lot of people wrote him off at the start of last year. They certainly weren't expecting this over the course of this year. Over the course of the season, he has played some incredible stuff. But he does look like a man without a care in the world, which I always think makes him much more dangerous, where earlier in the season you could say maybe there was a bit of pressure on, but once he's won his first title, he's hit the groove. Listen, this man loves playing in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
He loves playing on the grandest stage. And he has such a phenomenal record in Blackpool, it's going to be very difficult to look past him again.
Yeah, well, absolutely. How do you look past him? Because he's the man in form. He's won at every event so far. Let me throw it around another way. Last year he didn't win anything. We know that.
Yeah.
And he looked like a man under pressure for whatever reason, whether that's internally or externally. This year he's a completely different player. He's turned up and he's playing. He's not just winning. He's playing unbelievable pool, and it's taken unbelievable performances to the rare occasions he has lost.
He's, for me, and I'll say it, and people may agree with me, they may disagree with me. He has solidified his place for me as the greatest of all time this season by coming back and doing it consistently on the big stage in front of big crowds. That's what he was born to do.
Yeah.
Maybe the club environment didn't suit Mick last year.
Yeah, it's a fair call. Yeah.
And he has come back this year and proved he is the greatest of all time.
Let me ask you this question. If he goes on and wins a 4th title this week, could even win a 5th, where does that rank in his achievement? 6 times world champion, he's won everything there is to win in the game, but this is a new stage, a new platform, a new form of the game when you bring in the match clock, the shot clock and everything else. Where does this rank?
It's arguably the biggest stage that pool's ever been played on. So for this man to come, from the depths of despair at the tail end of 2021, I sat and saw him deflated at the Pro Cup at the tail end of last year, getting beaten in the 6 red shootout by Jordan Shepherd. He looked finished. Now, to come back and do what he's done this year, I cannot overstate it. I think, for me, it's amongst his biggest achievements, amongst the biggest achievements in the game. To come back, prove the doubters, prove the haters wrong. He's come back and put himself right at the top again.
And what a treat it's been for us to actually see that and witness it as well, because the level of pool he's playing is just, it's unreal. He's making the game look easier than it really is. You watch him play and you think, oh, I could do that. You go down the club the next day and you're like, hang on a minute, what's going on here?
Exactly that. Yeah. And that's not to say that we haven't seen other phenomenal standout performances. Stevie Dempsey's in with a shout. He's won two tournaments this year. You've got other players in the mix. Jack Whelan looks like he's returned to the form that we have. We've seen other big winners. We've seen the resurgence of Roland McCarthy, but let's not take away, it's very difficult to win one of these tour weekends. The schedule is brutal, and you've got to go through it twice across the course of a weekend, and you've got to do it in front of the pressure of a crowd. So this weekend is going to be a very interesting weekend all round, with so many subplots and so many stories. Where should we start, Simon?
Well, let's talk about the second story. We'll continue with Mick. Obviously, we're talking about whether he could win a fourth title. One every weekend is huge, but also the number one ranking's on the line. Now, I don't know, haven't spoken to him about it yet, how much that would mean to him. He's currently miles in front. He's over a tournament in front. There's only 7 players that can actually finish number one. Chris Smelling and Stevie Dempsey. Stevie's not here this weekend, so he can't. But Chris Smelling absolutely can. He's the most likely. Jack Whelan, Sean Story, Jordan Shepherd and Gareth Potts, who's in 7th in the rankings, could still finish number one. But for Gareth to win it, he would have to win, I think, both times, with Mick only picking up a small handful of points, maybe only 1 or 2 wins at most. So that really is a tall order. The most likely...
Having said that, though, Gareth also stakes his claim to be the greatest of all time, and that would would that put him further, back further in the picture if he could do it? Well,
I've been saying ever since we've had that debate, whether it's on air or off air, for me, that argument gets settled a little bit further down the line, because I think there's a real career still going on here for both of them. I know Mick's just over 40 and Gareth's coming up towards 40, but what they do over the next 5 years actually matters for me in that debate. But let's find out what happens over the next few years. Just back to the number one, 7,500 points ahead he is, 6,000 points if you win a title. So Chris is going to have to go very, very deep in one, or if not both events, to stop Mick having that number one.
And hope that Mick does something that he's not done since the events have gone out. Well, since the inception of Ultimate Pool, which is losing the first round.
Of any Pro Series event, he has not yet to lose in the first round, and I think he's the only player to be in that situation as well, which is another cool little achievement as well. Can you see anything else but Mick finishing number one, whatever happens?
Listen, you never know what's going to happen in the world of pool, but I would pretty much say that if there was a dead cert in the world, it's probably Michael Hill to finish top of the rankings, solidify his place as number one, and kick on to next year.
Yeah, and take all the other plaudits, Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year, all that sort of stuff, because he absolutely deserves it, whatever happens. Okay, let's move on to the other end of the spectrum when it comes to the Pro Series. We talked all season long about the potential of top 16 being huge, the seeds being huge. We now know what's going to happen next year. We're going to 96 players. That's why we've got so many wildcards being announced. But it means top 28 now is really important. And the reason it's top 28 is because the top 28 gets seeded, and then we're going to have 4 of the wildcards are going to get the other 4 seeded spots, which we don't know how that's going to play out. I don't think that's going to be all year round, as in it might change from tournament to tournament. We will find out as that goes on. So when it comes to that top 28, right now, Dylan Leary is in 28th position. Who's inside and who's outside? What do you think is going to happen? Where are we going with it?
And this is the unpredictability of Ultimate Pool this season. You saw Roland McCarthy lose a series of first round matches in a row, and then find himself reinstated and fully taking his opportunity in the Players' Championship. I don't want to call it.
Well, okay, I've been through the rankings. I've had a little bit of a look at this, and there's 2 players outside I think are going to make their way into it, potentially. Carl Boyes, he's joined the tour late. He's currently, as we look on the list here, he's outside. I think he's currently in 31st position, but he's only played one weekend.
I think he's nailed on.
So I think, and the other player I think has a real good chance is Chris Day, who has found form. The way he went to the World Championships, making it through to the World Championship final, the way he's played when we've seen him in the Players' Cup since, he looks like a man absolutely riding high, full of confidence. And wouldn't you know it, they play each other in both competitions this weekend. How about that for a draw?
That's, yeah.
I think they're the two big names outside the top 28, and they
Yeah.
play each other twice. That's huge.
Well, for us as viewers, we get to
Yeah.
watch it, and that's probably the most exciting part of it. Is we get to see this happen.
Yeah.
We get to see this play out. We get to see the drama unfold. Listen, it's equally for me. I get as big a buzz of watching that and seeing how people cope with that pressure than seeing kind of the finish to the top of the rankings.
What I'm looking forward to is around the venue. I think we're going to see players having just lost, sat there, okay, what does that mean? Where am I? Okay, and I think we see other players who've just won thinking, do I need to win one more? Have I done enough? Have they done the? And I think the players that actually do that are actually going to mess their minds up a little bit. I think the more you can stay away from that, the better.
It is. It's probably best just to concentrate match at a time. It's best to concentrate frame at a time, even if you can. I think if you overcomplicate this sort of thing, it will play with your head. I think for any of these players in the position is just let it be.
Yeah.
Just let it be as it will be.
With top 28, does top 16 still matter? Does top 8 still matter? Do you know what I mean? Because it's still going to be seeded. So, with the players that we have there, does finishing in that top 8 make a big difference?
Well, yeah, of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course it does psychologically. It does. The higher you finish up the rankings, the better it is for you psychologically, because it shows how far you have to reach to make it to the top of the game, or to reach your true level. So listen, every single match is mega important out there for any one of these guys who can make an impact or an inroad into the rankings. And I don't think no match can be underestimated. And listen, these guys are professionals for a reason. They're going to go out there and give it their all every single match.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing, and this is connected to the rankings.
Yeah.
Champion of Champions comes up. That's in a week. So all the winners of our Challenger Series, all our winners of our Pro Series are invited to the Champion of Champions. Huge prize pot, big title, one-day event, live on telly. Mick Hill's won 3 times. That means that there are going to be spaces go down to the rankings. Currently, when we look at the rankings, you can see that Sean Story and Stevie Dempsey are in possession of those spots because of Mick Hill. Stevie Dempsey's not here this weekend. That brings in the likes of your Jordan Shepherds and your Gareth Potts and anybody else that wants to make a big run at these titles. Those ranking points all of a sudden matter because it's another big tournament to try and get yourself into.
And you might even find people cheering Mick Hill on again, hoping that he wins another tournament, so he frees up another spot in the Champion of Champions.
Well, that could happen. Imagine if he won 2 more. That'd be 2 more spaces to go further down the rankings.
Could you put it past him?
No. No, absolutely not. We'll find out. We're going to have a pick in a minute about the Pro Series. Let's talk about the Women's Series as well, because the Women's Series is a bit more of a straightforward race. There's a few things going on. I want to talk about the Women's Series in its own right. The number 1 ranking matters to me. Being the number 1 player at the end of the year, there are things that go with that. We're going to talk about that. But just ending number 1 is massive.
Before we even go there,
Yeah.
let's actually talk about the difference that the Women's Series has actually made to the women's game. It's given women a bigger stage to play on. It's given them the coverage that they deserve. And what it is doing is the Women's Series on Ultimate Pool is inspiring the next generation of women's players. We're already seeing the buds of this at events when spots have become available. We've seen brand new female players that we might not have seen before. So a massive credit to Ultimate Pool for the work that they've done with the ladies' game.
Yeah, and are planning to do going forward as well. We get a little bit more of an insight into that, and the plans to really give the ladies' game the stage it deserves is absolutely massive. And we know that we're going to get to see it on the show from around quarterfinals onwards, every single match all the way through to the final. Hopefully we get to see a little bit before. We're waiting to get the full schedule, but that's the plan. And that's really exciting for us because we love the mini-series. We get to see them all the way through, and it's fantastic that we're going to get to see the deep end of the tournaments here. Let's talk about the rankings then. Harriet Haynes is miles in front. She's won 2, Amy's won 1, and there's 1 title to play for this weekend. Amy needs to win, and she needs Harriet to lose in the group, basically. If Harriet makes it out the group top, if she comes out second, she has to win a prelim match, but if she comes through top, she makes the last 32, she gets the 500 points she needs to guarantee being the number 1, and that'd be a huge achievement. It'd be hard to see Harriet not do that.
Yeah, and that's kind of, for Harriet, she's been so consistent throughout the season, and dare I say it, she has one of the most formidable, she has as formidable record in Blackpool as Mick Hill has in Blackpool, born to play in Blackpool. So everybody else is going to be up against it out there. But having said that, seeing the resurgence of Emma Cunningham over the course of the last 2 mini-series, she is on fire and playing some unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, she's the sort of outlier, if you like, when you look at the rankings. She's a little bit further down the rankings. She's not had the season you expect from her. I think partly because she's splitting her time between the Pro Series and the Women's Series, and there's a difference between playing them both. And I think going from one to the other, it's not an ideal situation for her. I think that's found hard, and also plays out the fact that when we've seen her at the mini series, where she focuses just on the women's series, she turns up, she hasn't lost. And unfortunately for Emma, her 2 titles come at the mini series, where they are unranked, unfortunately. So if she had ranking points for those, she'd potentially be sat at the top. So definitely expecting Emma to have a very good weekend now that she's sort of found her love for the sport once again. I think she can push herself up to 2nd or 3rd in the rankings if she was to go deep and win it. Which would be a great end to the season for her.
Listen, let's be honest. She's not going to be happy with her ranking.
No.
Let's be brutally honest. Not going to be happy at all. So she will be fighting as hard as she possibly can to move herself up those rankings, because the rankings probably don't tell the true story of the roller coaster of emotions that Emma's gone through over the course of the season.
Yes, we've talked about it a fair bit. You know, lots going on in her personal life and everything else, but also the fact that I think that I could give her just a huge amount of credit for pushing herself on the Pro Series. She didn't have to do it. She could have stayed away from the Pro Series, focused on the women, and continued to do what she does, and that's win big major tournaments. She said, no, I want to push myself to another level. I really want to see how far I can go, and promote the women's game as well. She's she's very aware of the promotion of the sport as well.
But exactly, equally, and that's what I wanted to say, is how many people has Emma inspired to want to take that next step, to take that scary step. Emma's taken a lot of knocks on the Pro Series, but she keeps coming back. And she keeps edging ever closer to winning her first match, which will be huge. It'd
be absolutely fantastic. And another exciting thing when it comes to the women's series is the winner of the rankings. So it looks like it's going to be Harriet, barring something strange happening this weekend. It could be Amy. She's the only one that could stop her. If it is Harriet or Amy, the winner of the rankings gets to be a pro for next year, which is absolutely fantastic. It means we're going to have Emma and one of those two, which I think is fantastic for the ladies' game. But I also think it's fantastic for Emma as well. I think, and it will be fantastic for whoever comes up with her, because they'll be able to sort of. It's not all on Emma. It will really help.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. There's so many interesting parallels, and like I say, if you want to develop and you want to grow the ladies' games, these opportunities have got to be presented. And Ultimate Pool are trying to put the ladies' game in the best possible place it's ever been.
Hopefully it continues. Anyway, so the ladies' game is going on this weekend as well. Plenty to check out and enjoy with that, but we'll be focusing on them on Sunday more than any other day this week. So make sure you tune in on Sunday if it's the ladies' game you are looking forward to. Okay, minefield, that is the Challenger Series. Where do we go here? Top 16 in the Challenger Series make it through. There will be pros for next year. 𝐤𝐸𝐴𝐚 is the number one. So there is also the race for the number one. And whilst I said it matters for the women, I also think it matters for the challenge. I think being number one on that Challenger Series is an unbelievable achievement.
I genuinely believe that there are challengers that are even further down the ranking that wouldn't look out of place in the Ultimate Pool Pro Series. The standard is so good. Well, it's scary watching. You see guys not miss a ball and have lost 6-3. Like, literally, that's as good as it gets.
Well, it's highlighted by the fact that we saw Andy Blurton on the pairs on Monday. I mean, he's right down the rankings. He's nowhere, and he's a pro-level player. I've been watching this guy for 10, 12 years now. I've been commentating on him for a long time. I've played against him a bunch of times. This is a pro-level player that was knocking on the door of winning pro titles, and he's down in the sort of the mid-hundreds on the Challenger. That shows you the strength and depth that we have.
We say it's a shark tank for a reason. It is a shark tank for a reason. I would invite anybody, if you're in the Blackpool area over the course of the weekend, please come in. Don't just set your sight on the pro arena tables. Go and check out the Challenger Series and the ladies events, and you'll kind of see the standard that's out there. Terrific standard, and some incredible players from top to bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big thing for me, we talked about it with the pros, how much are they going to be watching that top 28? You know, how much are the challengers going to be looking at that top 16? I'd love to know how many of them have done the maths. I've tried to do the maths. It's too hard to work out whether, if you're already in, could you stay in? I mean, let me run. We've got 𝐤𝐸𝐴𝐚 is top, Josh Corkett second, Neil Britton, Cameron Tolley, Richie Oliver, Andy Williams, 𝐿𝐸𝐴𝐚, Connor Jones, John Attard, Aaron Priest, Glenn Carr, Ian Whitehorn, Rob Sim, Gary Clark and Matt Cook are our current top 16. But it's so bunched and tight behind that, there's going to be somebody in that 16 I've just read out is going to have a heartbreaking weekend, they're going to miss out.
Yeah, there is. And it just goes to show the brutality of the level. I think for me, it's the hardest tournament to pick a winner in, by none at least. with the Pro Series, you can look at form, and form will play a part. But in terms of the Challenger Series, the form goes out the window.
Yeah.
It literally is. It's not even so much the ability to win matches, it's the ability to have the stamina to sustain the schedule, which is equally important.
Got to win, yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to be focusing on the deep end of those tournaments when we get there. We'll keep you updated with all the scores throughout the weekend. Make sure you go on the Ultimate Pool website where you can check out every single score for every single match. That Challenger Series is going to be fascinating as it unfolds through the rest of this weekend, so it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and we'll keep a close eye on it through the show as well, which will be hard to do, but looking forward to the challenge of doing that. Okay, so this is the bit that's going to be key for you, because we need to have our picks. Remember, you are 3 behind. We're going to have 2 picks in the pros, like we always do, because there's 2 tournaments. You don't have to be specific which ones. 2 picks in the challenges, and we'll have a pick in the women's series as well. Where should we? Let's start with the Pro Series then. And as you are 3 behind, and I'm a very generous guy, as you know, because I bought you your little can of pop there.
Thank you. What a guy.
I know, what a
First
guy.
treat you've ever bought me.
What a guy, exactly.
Seriously.
I'll let you have first pick.
I am going to pick Mick Hill first. I think he's going to make it 4 weekends out of 4. I've got no doubt about that. The guy is a lover of pool.
Yeah.
He absolutely adores the game of pool. He lives and breathes it. And for him to play on this Blackpool stage each and every time, it brings back those fantastic memories throughout the years. And I think that he's going to make it 4 from 4 this year.
4 from 4. Okay, so your first pick in the Pro Series. Okay, I'm going to go the other, completely opposite to you. I'm going to go Gareth Potts, because I get to see this guy every week. The level he plays at is unbelievable. For me, 7th in the rankings for most people would be a huge achievement. For Gareth, it's a hugely disappointing season. I find it hard to believe he could have a full year without winning a tournament, and he's gone over the 12-month stage without winning, and I expect him to win one this weekend.
Okay, my second pick is Declan Brennan. He's shown a lot of form in Northern Ireland. It looks like things are starting to click for him. And listen, the guy is an unbelievable talent. 12 months ago, people were saying, he's the best player in the world. They were
when he won the first tournament last year, that was definitely people were talking about.
Yeah. He's taken a lot of knocks over the last 12 months, but to see him win in Northern Ireland last weekend, I think it's going to fill him with great confidence, and I'm fully expecting him to do the job this weekend.
Okay, that's taken. I was actually going to go for Declan myself, just because for the same reason I picked Gaz, I actually think he's going to win a tournament, because I think he's been playing an unbelievable level without winning. He's taken big performances. He lost to Mick last time we were here in Blackpool. It takes big performances to beat him. So I do think that. Of course, there's plenty of people I could look at. Ronan McCarthy, who's riding high. Shane Thompson, who was the Player of the Year last year, won 3 times. He's not had the season this year. Jordan Shepherd's who won. Jack Whelan, who's already won this year. Sean Story, who's knocked on the door as hard as anybody this year without winning. Which way should I go? I am clutching at Story. Carl Boyes also springs out to me, by the way.
Carl Boyes has been incredible.
He's literally just hit the ground running. He's joined Ultimate Pool, hit the ground running, and I saw him practicing
Another
the other
guy
day.
who loves the game of pool.
Exactly. So how can I look past Carl? Okay, I'm going to go. He's been quiet for a couple of months. Haven't heard from him. Haven't actually seen him for a little while. I'm going to go Sheppy. I'm going Jordan Shepherd. Why not? Let's go there.
Well, I actually know this, and I'm actually a little bit annoyed that I even put Sheppy in your head.
Oh no, he was there. Don't you worry.
I know he has been putting some serious amounts of practice in. He's put his snooker queue away for the year, and he has been focusing solely on pool for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, that's great to hear, especially now that I picked him as well. But I think there's a lot of people that would love to see him win, because he's one of
fans'
the
favourite.
one of the fans' favourites. So entertaining to watch. Okay, so that's our picks for the Pro Series. Let's move on to the Women's Series then. And because you're 3 behind, and because I'm a generous guy, I'm going to allow you to have first pick again.
I am going to go Emma Cunningham.
Okay.
And the only reason why is because, listen, she's played out of this world the last couple of tournaments, and
you'd say.
Well, we've seen her in full flow, and it's been great to see. And that's not to knock Harriet, but Harriet's got to kind of pull herself together, because she's had a couple of tough losses.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult sometimes to get back in the habit of winning, as easy as it is to get in the habit of losing. Amy, again, is a quality player. There's several other players in that field who could threaten quite easily. Vicky Lomax. Kerry Griffith, these are people that can on any given day turn up and win this tournament.
Okay, I think if you've got first pick, you've got to go Emma. I think the form that she's in, she's certainly the stand-up player of the last few months. Semi-finals at the World Championships. Barbara Taylor's not playing this week. She's going to be in the tour next year, which is very, very exciting as well. And obviously Harriet's been the player of the year on the women's series. Amy's pushing her really close. I think Harriet wins the rankings, but I'm going to go for Amy to win this week. I was really impressed actually, and it took a brilliant performance from Emma Cunningham to beat her at the mini-series a few weeks ago. And chatting to her, she's working hard. She's got the bit between her teeth. Yeah. And for me, she's got the best break in the women's game. I think her break's massive. And on these great tables, these perfect conditions, she's going to give herself a lot of chances. So I'm going to go for Amy Beecham to win the women's series. If I get any of those right, you're going for a swim, let's be honest. You're 3 behind. Okay, Challenger Series then. Again, first pick for you, because I'm generous.
Okay, my first pick is going to be 𝐁𝐥𝐭𝐢𝐬𝐿.
Okay.
I'm always impressed when I watch Jez. He's had a fairly consistent season. He's riding high in the rankings. I don't know if he's fully confirmed in terms of a pro spot next year, but he looks pretty close. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do this weekend.
Yeah, I haven't done the maths. I think Jez thinks he's okay. I think Jez can qualify if he loses both matches, both first-round matches. But I don't know how guaranteed it is. But it's a good pick because he won one of the non-ranked events as well. So it's a really, really good pick. I'm going to go for a man that's also in the top 16 in the rankings. I'm going to go for Gary Clark, but he does need some results this weekend to confirm his top 16. I'm hoping the extra pressure of that isn't going to weigh too heavily on him because he's in position and he's got something to lose. I was very impressed with him in Ireland at the World Championships. I thought he was fantastic.
Terrific.
So I think he's just going to continue that form. He's going to keep riding high, and I'm going to go for Gary Clark as my first pick.
My second pick is a player that I really like. He's drafted in at late notice to be Dylan Leary's doubles partner, but I really like Matt Cook. I like the way he plays. I like the way he approaches the game. He's on the cusp. He could potentially lose out on a pro spot this weekend.
He's 16th, I think, at the moment.
So I think he's about 16th. Yeah. So that's going to give him extra impetus to, fight for his place. Listen, he plays at pro standard.
Yeah.
I want to. He's a good guy. I want to see him come through. So hopefully this is the weekend where he proves me right and he sends you into the sea.
Okay, I'm going to go. I want to say it's a little bit left field. It's not really left field. Because...
Are you going down Wales?
No, I'm not. I'm not going that far left. I'm not going that far left. Although I'd love to see Dan actually have a really, really good run. It'd be fantastic.
Last 16 last time.
And I know he's a phenomenal player because I can't beat him, so he must be a very good player. I'm going to go for... I make myself laugh here. I'm going to go for Cole Bedford. I think I was really impressed. He was fantastic when he played in the Masters. I've watched him play for the last 5, 6, 7 years. When he plays at a high level, he's brilliant.
Oh, he's got a gear.
He's got a gear.
He's got a gear.
The reason I say it's left field, for me, can he do it for a full tournament? Because he's got a match in him where he just goes bonkers
He'll
the
tell
wrong
you
way.
He crumbled the last time he was out on the big stage in the semi-final of a Challenger
But I think that will
event.
help him though. I think the fact he's been there, if he gets back to the semi-final, he'll be stronger for it.
He beat Brian Halcrow. He played great. He played great on the Wednesday night Masters. He played great.
Yeah.
Maybe he's coming to terms with that stage. Listen, the guy's exciting to watch. What a character in the game. No, actually, let me not say this too loud, but we do need more Cole Bedfords in the game.
Yeah.
He's a very entertaining guy, so much fun. And we'll get younger people watching Paul.
Yeah, and please, if Cole has a deep run, gets himself in that top 16 and qualifies, Cole, please don't change. We absolutely love it. I want to see you keep showing your emotion. Toys out the pram when you make a mistake. I want to see it all because it's absolutely fantastic. And
we can sell him another break cue.
we keep breaking your cue. We'll keep selling your cues. It'll be good. Yeah, make sure if you do need a cue, go and check out the Ottoman Pool shop. There's a little segue for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic. That is our picks then. So you've got big hopes there. You're 3 behind, 5 to play, but winning. Remember,
my Hail Mary.
The minute your players are out, that's I'm in great position.
Yeah,
so I don't necessarily need to win with my picks. I
Listen,
just need
Paul's
you
the
not
winner
to win.
here. Paul's the winner here.
Paul's the winner if you go for a dip in the ocean. Yeah.
Well, it's not really, is it?
That is us, though. That is the Pro Series. That is our picks. If you do want to watch, make sure, and you're not a subscriber yet, because it is on the Ultimate Pool app and on Ultimate Pool TV this weekend. Make sure you use the promo code DECK10 to get yourself a discounted rate of $49.99 for the year. There is plenty on there over the course of the next year as
Hang on, you get yourself in early for all of the to see the wild cards play.
Yeah.
Next year kicks off in January, so we get to see
Well, even before that, we know we've got the Champion of Champions, we've got the Pairs final, we've got the Masters continues. Then we've got next year starting. There is so
You
much
should work in
happening.
sales, Simon. What a Christmas gift.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So make sure you use deck 10 if you aren't already a subscriber. Of course, if you are already a subscriber, great to have you on board, and we look forward to seeing you on the show this weekend. Are we going to get a game this weekend? I remember last time we played 5. I think it was such a bad standard. We should probably stay away from it, and I'll remain 1-0 up forever.
Yeah, let's go for that.
Yeah,
let's go for that. It was so bad.
It was bad.
So bad.
Yeah, you play the player, not the. We talked about this enough.
Yeah, no, I was playing a rubbish player, so I played rubbish.
That's very true. Absolutely. Scott, thank you for your time. I know you're itching to go behind there and get myself a drink, so I look forward to that. And make sure you tune in this weekend. All the action gets underway at midday on Friday, and then we are live and exclusive all weekend long on Ultimate Pool TV and the Ultimate Pool app. We will see you on the show.